Hi, this is the Social Jello with Angelo show. My name's Angelo. I'm a social scientist, surfer, martial artist, and a whole lot of other things. Coming to you live from Kasai City, Japan, the Social Jello with Angelo show.
What's up, and welcome to another episode of Social Jello with Angelo podcast. As you saw in the title, this is competing internationally with Team USA. What is that? I don't know. That's why I figured I'd have one of Team USA's coaches come on in here, John Henderson Jr. Did I get your name right?
Yeah, that's my government name, but you call me Jay. Everybody calls me Jay.
So okay, Jay. All right. Okay, so I'm here with Jay, and he's going to break it down for us. So a quick story of how I found Jay. So I was going through the internet like I do, and I came across people competing wearing Team USA uniforms. And I'm like, what is that? And I've seen it a few times. I've seen people competing in like kickboxing. I've seen them doing point sparring. I've seen even people doing Jiu-Jitsu, and they were in Team USA uniforms. And I've always wondered, what is Team USA? How are these things connected? So, and then out of nowhere, I see a post congratulating Jay, using his government name, as he put it, for becoming one of the coaches for Team USA. And it says, oh, it goes through a big bio, and in there it mentioned that he's a Kaji Kembo instructor. I'm like, what? No way! So somehow now Kaji Kembo's involved. Now I gotta find out what's happening here. So for those of you that don't know, at the end of this podcast, you can check out what is Kaji Kembo if you don't know what it is. I have a podcast I did with Chuck Liddell's coach, John Hackelman, and he explains, along with some other people, what Kaji Kembo is. So, but for those of you watching right now, what is Team USA?
Okay, yeah. Well, so Team USA, this is pretty much a team that's put together through the United States Martial Arts Team. So it's a conglomerate. So they're sanctioned through the so they're actually sanctioned through the World Martial Arts Games Council. So this is pretty much, it's individualized by state. So throughout the United States, we have quite a few different states that have coaches and teams. But what we do is we actually have select uh, students or athletes that try out for your particular team. So you have the kids try out just like any other like amateur team you would do. You would actually have the tryout done, and we put them in position, and we train with them throughout, maybe a year and a half, for the World Games, which is typically held overseas or internationally. The most recent one we did last year was actually in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Okay. And what divisions are at these tournaments?
So you have a lot of different divisions. I mean, plenty of them. So any that you would see at a standard tournament, you would see there. But you have underbelt, black belt divisions, youth and adult. You have your open hand events, your Okinawan forms, Chinese, Korean. You have your weapons events. You have light contact events like your point sparring, continuous sparring, kumite. You even have reality self-defense in there. You have no gi grappling, creative self-defense. I can go on and on. There's so many different divisions that you could actually compete in. Yeah.
Okay, so let me break it down for a lot of my listeners, um, because of my background. A lot of them are jiu-jitsu guys, and a lot of them are kickboxers.
Gotcha.
So there's a continuous sparring division, which is what they would consider American kickboxing for you kickboxing people who are listening. American kickboxing is very similar to your regular kickboxing. Usually they don't allow leg kicks, so it's all body kicks. And it's light contact. So if you're someone who's trying to get into it and wants a great place to start, it's light contact, right?
It's light contact.
Before I start saying this. So for those that don't know, it's a great place for you to get your feet wet. If you're thinking of full contact competition, I really do if you're in that, like some of you are ready. Hey, if you're ready to go in there and bang, go for it. Some of you that kind of want to see what it's like to deal with an adrenaline dump and still be in a little bit more of a different environment, but still have that adrenaline dump and work with it, I do recommend light contact for that. That's what light contact was. And then for your jujitsu, you mentioned no-gi jujitsu?
Grappling. No, so
Grappling.
well, yeah, no gi grappling. So, and most of the athletes do have a jiu-jitsu background or judo background that are competing in that particular event.
Okay. So there it is. For those of you wondering what it is, if I'm professional enough, I probably will have a link in my YouTube description that so please and then I'll ask Jay to please send me a link to the world to the USA team website, and you can see that there. All right, so we got that out of the way, but I want to know why and how Jay got into martial arts. So we're looking at the end of the story here. You know, congratulations, by the way, on getting the position as one of Team USA's coaches. Not easy to do. But how did you get into martial arts? That's what I'm wondering. How'd that come about?
Martial arts for me has been a part of my life my entire life, man. Like a lot of folks that you may have on here, I started when I was about 10 years old. So I started in 1990. And I started at a recreation center. So you see a lot of those. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. And it's one of those things, my parents wanted to keep us busy, and that was one of those things. Typically it was basketball, football, track, baseball. And one day, there was sign-ups for karate, karate class right at the rec center. So we absolutely had to be a part of that. And I joined, and I never stopped. Never stopped. So
And
that's how it came.
so when you went into that first karate class, what style was that?
So my primary system is it's called Lotus Self Defense. Lotus is a Thai-based system that is a derivative of Kanchi Kimbo. The founder of Lotus was a Kempo black belt under Great Grandmaster Tony Lassiter. So he learned in Thailand. He's a Thai national, and he learned Kempo there. The Lotus system itself is a mixed system as well. It's Muay Thai kickboxing, Chinese Kempo, Aikido, and Judo, which was taught to him at that time with Great Grandmaster Lassett and a few other instructors that he had trained with. But my instructor was in the Air Force, and he was there training at that time. And when he came back to the States, he started a school. First school was in Texas, and then his second school was in Charlotte, North Carolina. I happened to be, one of the second generation.
And so you're 10 years old. What made you want to do it? I mean, you said you had to do it. Yeah, I had to do it. There was a karate class that had to do it. But I mean, that's not for us as martial artists. It's easy for us to say, "Oh, we had to do it." I have the reasons why I felt like I had to do it. But to the average person that doesn't do martial arts, they'll look at people punching and kicking each other, and they're like, "I don't want." I just had an adult come in here the other day. Oh, I want to see your gym, and oh yeah, check out my gym. You can work out here. We have martial arts classes. I don't do martial arts. I've never done martial arts. Would you like to do martial arts? No. So like why? So my question is to you: what attracted you to it? What made you want to get in there?
Well, we were always athletes growing up. So to go outside, play football, basketball, run around that's just second nature for us. But it was something that personally me, I always wanted to train in some style of martial arts. Watching Jim Kelly, I'm telling you, like in the late 80s, early 90s, it was The Last Dragon that really got us, right? And I always wanted to do it. But not only that, but I grew up on the west side of Charlotte, North Carolina, which, if you ask anyone, that's going to be a side of town that you don't necessarily want to go to when you come to Charlotte, right? So we were a little more independent when we were younger, meaning that we got up in the mornings, during the summer, and we got outside and got after it, right? And we were gone until it was time to be back home. And in the process of doing so, you may need to know a few things so you can get back to the house, safely without without as many bumps and bruises, right? But so for me, it was just one of those things where I saw it and it was just like, hey, I definitely want to do it. But not only that, my parents were military, right? So, once you start something, you finish it. You don't quit. so you're not going to quit it. So when I said I had to do it, it was like, if they're going to spend their time putting me in there and putting us in there, I'm going to have to make the best of it. But the good thing is that my entire family ended up doing it. My dad, my sister, my brother, myself, some of my cousins. So we all did it together. So it was a little easier to do, but definitely no quit. It was definitely no quit. So we stuck with it.
That's awesome. So it sounds like already baked into your family was discipline. Like
Oh yeah,
that was already there. It's
yeah.
really rough whenever you have a student where not everyone's on board. You're the only one when you're the instructor trying to teach the parents how to be a parent. That's
Hey,
so that's awesome. You had that
yeah.
going on.
Trying to, just making sure that I pass that down. Often for me, it's, a blessing to me that a lot of the parents that come into my doors, that's what they're looking for. They're wanting, a conduit, someone else outside of the house that's pushing the same message so that their kids don't feel like it's just mom and dad pounding them, beating them over the head with the same stuff, right? So for me, that's been a blessing, being able to pass on with the parents, how the parents grew up as well. They see it in me, and I get a chance to continue it with them. So they see and they can trust it. So that's what's worked for me so far.
So, and a lot of the people that I've had on the show, um, they'll talk about how they started martial arts as a kid, and this is a pattern that I've mentioned on the show before. People join martial arts as a child. They get their black belt. Maybe they get their black belt around teenager or adolescent period, sometimes adult, a little before college. Then college starts and life happens, and then they move out and they go and they got to start their careers. And balancing martial arts and a regular life is not easy, to say the least. So, how did you deal with that transition when going from child who does karate, a style of karate, martial arts, mixed martial arts from the sound of it, and then you become an adult? What was that point where you felt, not that you had to make a decision, but how did you find that balance? I guess, what was your career that you ended up in, and how did you balance martial arts in that?
Well, so for me, I knew early on that martial arts was something that I had fallen in love with, but not only because of, the martial aspect of it, but because of how I was able to recognize a change in myself, right? I was a pretty decent athlete growing up. I went to college, and I was a dual scholarship athlete in college, right? And I attribute the majority of that to the fact that I trained in martial arts early, right? Really early as a kid. I ran track. I was a world-class sprinter, and also played football. So those are things that, it was just something instilled in me. But when I graduated high school, because the system that I trained in, you absolutely weren't getting the black belt before you were 18 years old, right? It wasn't happening. Was unheard of, right? So I was going into college what we would consider a junior black belt, right? Because I hadn't turned age, I hadn't made 18 just yet. So, but the good thing about it is I actually went to a Division II school here locally where I was able to continue some of my training, off season, because when you're a scholarship athlete, you can't be out there at tournaments and doing things like that could get you hurt. But during the summer, I was able to return back and continue training. And once I completed my undergraduate degree, before going into my master's degree, I let my instructor know, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach. I'm going to open a school. I'm going to continue teaching, regardless of what it took for me to do it. I was willing to go through that to get it, and that's what I did, man. I went through, I got my master's degree, and started working professionally in corporate America. And honestly, I still work in corporate America to today, right? But I was able to learn how to manage my time effectively and efficiently. And time management, believe it or not, is, if you can master that, it's a lot you can actually get done. So for me, it was more like, this is something that I'm definitely going to do, because I see and I saw early the importance of having this type of discipline in the child's life. It wasn't about the adults. It wasn't about, the grand championships and the trophies and things like that that you're winning. For me, it's all about the kid. It's all about the children, right? And growing up where I grew up, the households, it was just a little different how the households are being run nowadays. So I said, hey, I want to be that person, that can actually step in when mom has to work late or dad has to work long hours and teach these kids and continue what's going on at home. So that's what pushed me. I knew that that's something I wanted to do, and that's what I did, and I put my mind to it. I go ahead and do it. I don't quit it. And then once you have 10, 15, 20, 25 kids that are waiting on you to come in every day, well, not waiting on you, but coming to you, and it's hard for you to give that up. It's hard for you to give it up. You know what I mean? So it was really that simple for me.
So you found that balance, for you, it was a balance of working and running your school. And then for those of you who watch my show, I always tell people this, like, yeah, there's those top people that I've met, but even even highest ranked or highest, most popular martial arts instructors that I've had on here, all of them, 100%. I'm a stats guy. I got a degree in research psychology. So like for me, it's all about numbers, and you don't find 100% very often in statistics. But
Right.
I can tell you right now, on my show at least, 100% of the martial arts instructors I've interviewed have all had to go through that. Not one of them was just like, oh yeah, I went to karate as a kid, and I finished college and opened a school as a teenager. and I've just been running a successful martial arts school my whole life. That is so far. Maybe one day someone will prove me wrong, because I know how statistics work. There might be that 0.0001% person that did it, but for the most part, behind the scenes is what you just described. Even John Hackleman, he was a registered nurse, so he was sitting there training Chuck Liddell for the UFC, and then going over there and patching people up as a nurse. As that's it's easy to, man. How was that? I love these. If you see me and you know how I work, I love a side rant. You've been doing martial arts since the 90s. What a trip, huh? Like now you have the UFC, like this mainstream entity that broadcasts martial arts as this mainstream sport. I don't know about you. Was martial arts mainstream in your area in the 90s? How was
Not at all, man. It was, martial arts it was here in the Carolinas and everything like that. It's been around for a while, but as far as mainstream, no, not at all. Not at all. It was, I know for me, on the side of town that I grew up on, you didn't see a martial arts school, right? You didn't see them, and they didn't really start to become a little more prevalent until like the late 90s, to late 90s. Um, but UFC, yeah, that was a pivotal time for everyone, because, it was like, wow, because back then that's when you didn't actually have, weight divisions and things like that. It was more so like you get in there and hopefully you make it out, right? But it, that was a real cool time, because it was like, that's what, when you talk about martial arts, when you think about it and you look at it on that level in your mind, that's what you should be able to do when you master it, right? You should be able to get in there regardless of who they are, where they're from. We saw some good fights, and that's exactly how it's supposed to go. It's not supposed to be this fairy tale dream that, what you do is going to be, is the end all be all, right? You're actually going to have to battle test that, and that's what that did. And I think it did a great thing for the martial arts.
and then how here, I'm gonna so how do you feel now? So like now, it's back then, and I've said this before on the show for people that are watching. Back then in the 90s, getting into martial arts, like I just heard your story, right? In your martial arts journey, you got your scholarships through track. Not that they have scholarships for martial, I don't know, not yet anyway, that I know of. Maybe you know something I don't, but you know, right? If you want to get into college or if you want to get a scholarship, mostly it's going to be just like track or football, right? But what's kind of weird happening right now with martial arts is that there's a professional track to be had. I mean, there wasn't before. Even in the 90s when we were watching UFC, the first I've said this before on the show, the first UFC scared the hell out of me. Like I had a karate instructor. Yeah, I found this tape, and like I thought it was a snuff film. Like what's going on here? Where'd you find this?
Yeah.
I thought looks illegal. So, but I mean, it's come a long ways since then. You know, that was, the early days really did. Politicians were all upset because it looked like underground fighting. It very much was. But now, man, you got Reebok, you got Nike, you got Reebok now backing up. But before Reebok stepped in with that deal, all of the brands were there, and they're still kind of there in the background. So it's kind of this huge, like a mainstream, a valid career path, right? It's a valid career path for some people. How do you feel as a martial artist who came where it wasn't a valid career path to see this new emergence of new generation of martial artists that have that opportunity?
Man, I'm excited for it because of the evolution. It's really and truly nothing that you can think of nowadays that you can't make money and actually make a career of doing. But when you find something like this, when when you're a warrior and you love doing what you're doing, it's great to be able to see that folks can make a living doing what they love to do, so there's a lot of different things that have changed since then. And even when it comes down to, making sure you're keeping the athletes safe, they're doing a whole lot more with that as well. So that's a beautiful thing. So I'm all for it. I love to see folks live out their dreams and do the things that they love to do. So I think it's a really good thing, man.
And going back to your story, so you start running your school. How did you end up becoming a coach for Team USA? How'd that come about?
Well, I became a coach. So I started out as the assistant coach for about 3 years under the late Grandmaster Patrick McDaniel, who passed away earlier this year. So I was his assistant coach for about 3 years. So he brought me in, and I primarily worked with them, work with the team on just their sparring, and he would take most of everything else, most of the sparring and the grappling, things like that. I will work with them and the athletes on those. Just using my athletic background, using as a personal trainer, as a strength coach, things like that, taking those attributes and bringing them into the dojo, working with the kids on just how to get better, because the athletes that we work with are from different disciplines, so you have to be impartial. You're not there to change what they know already. You're there to make it better. So that was a really good experience. But Professor McDaniel, he was an instructor of mine. He was actually a mentor of mine, and he brought me in as the assistant coach. That's how I became part of the USA team. And I would say I inherited the role when he passed away earlier this year, but it was something that he had already spoken. He said that's what he wanted to happen. Because there's plenty of other coaches that they could have chosen to look for, but they stuck with me.
Wow. And so, and then you mentioned part of what you do is you work with martial artists from different backgrounds that are trying to compete in a particular division at these world tournaments that they have with all these divisions, like more divisions than we can count. When I started making go through the list, like it sounds like it's like a really extensive tournament with a lot of different divisions. And it's done like what I saw online, like they have them, like you were saying, they don't just have them in the US. I saw they're like across Europe, and they're all over the place, right?
It's an international circuit, right? So you compete internationally. So the United States, we have a few states that have teams. North Carolina is simply one of them, and I'm actually running both North and South Carolina. So anyone in North and South Carolina at the moment would actually come try out with me and train with me. But we actually compete internationally. So the last World Games was in 2023. The next one will be 2025. But we had, I believe, about 10 different countries that came here to train. So it had to be close to 500 to 600 athletes that were there competing in Daytona Beach last year.
Wow. And the World Games are every 2 years?
Every 2 years. Mm-hmm.
Every 2 years. All right. All right. So you spend 2 years with a team preparing them to compete in and how do they make the decision of when you have an athlete come in, a martial arts athlete, I guess if I'm going to use the term, I'm going to come up with my own terms here. How do they decide what division they're going to compete in? And how do the coaches figure out what they're going to work on for that athlete in the 2 year period?
Well, as far as so they try out and they pretty much bring their specialty when they try out, right? So whenever you do a tryout, it will be just like any other. You would have them run. If they're forms, you would have them, spar. They absolutely do that. And then for those who would like to grapple and run, jiu-jitsu, you would actually have them work as well. From time to time, I would actually have different coaches come in and work with them specifically on their grappling or wrestling to come in, but they will bring in their specialty and that will be based on their school. So we would go and speak with their instructors, talk to their instructors. First of all, if they're interested in trying out, just to get, because we need to interview, find out about the athlete. It's not just, hey, I want to compete and I just go. No, you actually have to try out for this team. And more goes into it than just you being a good athlete. So we have to sit down. We talk to the coaches. To the instructors of those schools because they may not necessarily be coaches of the team, but we rely heavily on those instructors to make sure that they're continuing. They have a meal plan. They have a workout plan that just like any other athlete would have. They've passed and they've gotten through the tryout phase, they get a welcome letter, and that welcome letter they have to go through attestations telling them these are the standards for our athletes. This is what you have to adhere to, from grades to nutrition to workouts, everything, and we check it. And from there we pretty much say, okay, what is your specialty? What is it that you really want to do? What do you want to work on? Some kids want to do it all, and they're great at all of it. So we'll let them do that. So we don't hold them back, but we allow them to express themselves.
And then these World Games, you work specifically with kids, but is there an adult division as well?
Absolutely, I have adults as well.
Oh, okay, cool. All right,
so the same thing applies to the adults. Yeah.
Okay. So it's kids and adults then. Yeah, because I was gonna say I remember seeing adults too.
So yeah, there are kids and adults. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So they all compete. They're from different schools. So that when you have these tryouts, you let all the schools in the area know you're having tryouts, and then they all come in and go through
it's selective sometimes, but based on how we normally do it, we already have regional tournaments that we do anyway, right? So you already have resources there and relationships that you've already built with instructors throughout those tournaments that you've already done. So yeah, you let them know that you're having tryouts when you're having tryouts, and you invite those who you want to come out and check it out, right? So that's how you do it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I think you pretty much answered all the questions I had about Team USA. Is there anything is there anything I missed? Is there anything that you feel you want the public to know about it? Because like I said, I didn't know what it was. And I've only seen stuff online. It would come across, and I know it's only coming across my feed because of my background in martial arts. So,
Right.
so what is it like? Is there anything that you'd like the general public to know more about before we wrap
Well,
things up?
honestly, because everyone knows about AAU, everyone knows about the Olympics and things like that. The U.S. martial arts team is while they're not affiliated, it's actually another opportunity for athletes to get international exposure as well. So kind of sort of going back to what you mentioned about the UFC back in like the 90s, where the exposure for martial arts in general wasn't that big. And now here we are, and folks actually have an opportunity to make this a living. And these are resources, these are avenues that, both kids and adults can go to live out their dreams, compete internationally, get gold medals, get silver medals, walk onto the podium. And then there are some opportunities as well, with relationships to where you can be exposed to the Olympics and things like that, going through a U.S. Martial arts team in your state, so it's something that's going to grow. We're looking to grow it a whole lot more so that folks can see a whole lot more of it, and make it just as prominent as you would see AAU or any other amateur martial arts system. You know what I mean? So we want to get that done, and we're going to start pushing it a whole lot more now. It's starting thing. A lot of people asking questions about it, which is great. That means we're doing something right, and we want to keep it going, man.
All right. Well, so anybody interested in trying out or learning more about Team USA, where should they go online?
Well, the website, and let me make sure I get the correct website for you. It's www.usmat.org.
USMAT.org.
Yeah. And our head coach is Mr. Drew Derek Bisbee. Okay, he's out of Florida, and you can find. I believe he is on Facebook. I want to get it wrong. I don't want to get it incorrect by giving you the wrong handle, but he is there. So if you're looking for any more information, they can reach out to me. It doesn't matter what state they're in, and I can find a representative that may have a team in that state and send them in the right direction.
And this is right here. Is this the right one? You're saying make
Yes,
sure it's the right one. Okay. So this is the right. So for anybody listening, anybody watching, it was www.usmat.org. It'll take you to their website. And then at the website, it doesn't matter. It's a, again, quick description. It's a U.S. martial arts team, nonprofit organization dedicated to assembling and coaching country's best martial artists to represent the United States of America in the World Martial Arts Game every 2 years. Now, if they go here, it doesn't matter what state they're from. They can go here and they can start looking and applying and finding a local representative in their state. Is that correct?
Well, they'll probably from this particular site, you'll probably, I don't think it has an opportunity for you to find, but you can contact Mr. Bisbee or the representative directly from there and send them an email, and they'll reach back out to you to say, hey, we have someone in your area or not that holds a team or has a team out there.
All right. So then again, so I clicked on here on the website, clicked on the little dots, so you can contact us. And just to remind you, for anyone who's watching, anybody who's listening, those are a lot of divisions. Those are a lot of divisions. So when I share this, I'm going to share this in the jiu-jitsu communities I'm in, and I'm also going to share this in the kempo and karate circles that I'm in, as well as the MMA guys. I'll let them know. Yeah. they got their kids programs. They also have people who are interested in this kind of stuff. So definitely check out the website if you want to compete in the World Games. And like I said, I saw the pictures and I was really impressed by the way they're running things, and I wanted to know more. So hopefully this gave you an opportunity to learn more about it.
Yeah,
well, Jay, thank you so much again for coming out and taking the time to share that with us and with me. And for my listeners, one of these episodes once a week, Social Jiu with Angelo podcast. Catch y'all next time.